Welcome to the Boxing Gossip channel. Hope everyone is doing well. Heavyweight action this weekend in the Barclays Centre in Brooklyn on an Eddie Hearn card. Johann takes on Jarrell Miller. Now, Johann probably best known to fans worldwide for the nature of his losses rather than his wins, but nevertheless a credible opponent. BoxRec have him as the 14th best heavyweight in the world. I think that's generous, but I think he's definitely top 25 and potentially the toughest test of Jarrell Miller's professional career to date. Just to talk through Johann credentials, BoxRec have him listed as 6'5". My instinct is he's a bit smaller than that, but it's probably there or thereabouts, right? 41 bouts, so very experienced, 37 wins, with 24 wins coming by way of knockout, 4 losses, 2 losses by stoppage. He took a loss earlier on in his career, about 10 years ago now, to Francisco Pianeta. More recently, lost a UD to Erkan Tepe in 2015. He beat Manuel Charr, current WBA regular champion, beat Manuel Charr by a majority decision in 2015. A loss by stoppage, although with immense credit, to Deontay Wilder in 2015. A knockout win over Robert Helenius in 2016. A devastating knockout loss to Alexander Povetkin under highly controversial circumstances when Povetkin had tested positive prior to the fight, and Duhaupas was brought in as a late notice opponent. I believe he turned up wearing trainers that day. Subsequent to the loss, he's had 3 comeback wins against guys with a 17-4 and a 15-1 record. So, not top opposition, but nevertheless semi-credible. And now he takes on Jarrell Miller, undefeated Jarrell Miller. So, Duhaupas for me, a decent fighter. His wins over Manuel Charr and Robert Helenius kind of tell you that the level of operator he is. He's decent. He tends to come up short at the top level. The losses to Pianeta, Erkan Tepe probably tell you the level of his upside. The fact he's been stopped when he fought Povetkin and Wilder kind of shows a little bit of vulnerability at the elite. But you've got to say, Duhaupas performed with immense credit against Wilder. And I'd say that overall, when I look at Duhaupas, he's quite a good all-rounder. I don't look at him and think that he's spectacular in one area or another. But at the same time, there aren't complete glaring weaknesses. If I remember back to that Deontay Wilder fight, I seem to remember him having real success with the jab against Deontay Wilder. If you look at the Robert Helenius fight, despite the fact he's got a 59% KO ratio, you can see in that Robert Helenius fight that he carries a bit of power, most certainly. If you look at the Wilder fight, you can see that he also takes a good punch. He's not some sort of feather-chinned heavyweight. He's a guy who can take a shot and keep coming. At 37 years old, with 4 losses on his resume, you've got to ask yourself how much desire is there left from Duhaupas. I mean, if he goes and beats Jarrell Miller, of course he put himself back in line for a world title shot. He'll be a guy who's talked about fighting the very, very best fighters in the world yet again. So, this is an opportunity for him, perhaps a last opportunity for him to get back into the very, very big time of heavyweight boxing. But you just wonder at 37 years old, with a few heavy losses on his name, whether he may now be in the autumn of his career. Those losses to Deontay Wilder and Povetkin, they were punishing losses. The Povetkin knockout was pretty scary. I remember at the time that being a pretty chilling knockout as these things go. So you wonder if either of those potentially just took something out of Johann Duhaupas. Sometimes those are the kind of fights that can shorten a fighter's career when they're knocked out in that fashion. Now, Jarrell Miller has started to step up in level of opposition. He was very, very easily matched, in my opinion, for his first 15, 16, 17 fights. In 2016, he fought Fred Cassie. In 2017, he fought Gerald Washington. Late 2017, he fought Mariusz Wach. Now, Mariusz Wach and Fred Cassie, both guys known as being extremely durable, tough guys. Very, very hard to stop. Very hard to get out of that. Jarrell Miller made Fred Cassie retire in the fight. He was able to force the stoppage against Mariusz Wach. So he's kind of a guy on a bit of a roll. 20 wins, 18 by way of KO, no losses. 1 draw. Listed as 6'4", BoxRec have him as the 8th best heavyweight in the world, the 8th highest ranked heavyweight in the world. And I believe, that's a fair rating, I guess, given the state of the current heavyweight division. At 29 years old, reason to believe Jarrell Miller is potentially still getting better and potentially coming into his peak years. In terms of his style, massive physical presence in the ring, fights with a huge high output for such a big guy, good pressure, probably not the slickest, smartest technical boxer from range, but Jarrell Miller's all about walking you down, getting you into the mid-range and into the inside and grinding you out there, a sort of high-class pressure fighter with a lot of size and natural heavy-handedness. It's an interesting one. For me, a guy like Gerald Washington had the potential to cause Jarrell Miller problems because Washington's a guy who can jab, who can move, he's got skills, he's got slickness, he's got sort of ring savvy. You'd think he'd be the kind of guy who could maybe cause Jarrell Miller some problems with his technique. But Jarrell Miller was kind of able to walk through everything that he had. You get the impression that Jarrell is a massive physical presence in there, very tough, very durable, and completely intent on closing down the range. And when I look at a guy like Johann I do kind of wonder if Duhaupas is going to have the necessary work to keep Jarrell Miller off him. I think, like other Jarrell Miller opponents, Duhaupas could have spells of success. I think if he can get the jab going like he did in that Wilder fight, there's real possibility he could catch Miller with it from range and maybe catch him coming in. But all in all, do I think it's going to be enough to dissuade Jarrell Miller from coming forward? Probably not. Do I think there's enough snap on that punch to hurt Jarrell Miller? Probably not. And although I haven't watched chapter and verse of Johann Duhaupas' career, I get the impression from what I have seen that he's not a fighter who's going to be instantaneously comfortable on the inside and instantaneously able to deal with the kind of pressure that Jarrell Miller's going to bring. I think potentially it's a well-timed matchup. And at 37 years of age, even though Duhaupas had notice for this, at 37 years of age and with a few losses to his record and with a few heavy losses to his record, I just wonder if the test that Jarrell Miller is going to pose is going to be too much for him at this stage of his career. And I kind of wonder whether we could see Jarrell Miller force a TKO. You're looking at Jarrell Miller fights. He's not the kind of guy who's leaving opponents iced out on the ground. He's just the kind of guy that must be horrible to fight. I mean, you imagine being in there with a bloke who's 19, 20, 21 stone, coming forward, not giving you an inch to move, not allowing you to get long range work off, high output despite that size, sitting on you, not giving you room to breathe. You're waiting for him to tire, you're waiting for him to gas because of his size, but that just doesn't happen. For me, probably one of the hardest guys to fight stylistically in the division, and I think in order to beat him you're going to need something huge to keep him off, or you're going to need sort of elite level footwork, evasiveness, ring savvy, and durability really, and I don't think at this stage of his career Johann Duhaupas is going to bring enough of that to really put himself in with a chance of winning the fight. I do think Jarrell Miller's the kind of guy who could look bad in spells. There are obviously technical flaws there. There are certain opennesses there. And you would get the impression that a guy like Johann Duhaupas, as I said earlier in the video, could have spells of success, could maybe land noteworthy punches on occasion. But I suspect relatively swiftly it will become one-way traffic, and I actually think Jarrell Miller will probably stop Johann Duhaupas. I'm not saying he'll ice him out, I'm not saying it'll be a devastating knockout, but I think in typical Jarrell Miller fashion he'll grind him out of there, he'll do enough, he'll pressure him enough, he'll make the fight ugly enough, and it will go one way. That's my early thoughts on the fight. I'm certainly looking forward to watching it. Jarrell Miller's a fascinating character, and he genuinely provides a very different stylistic challenge to the majority of the heavyweight division. And sometimes when you're looking at different styles making fights, it's really interesting, and it adds a bit more to the dimension of the division to have someone who does something, so different to the classic jab and grab, jab and move technique that you see in the majority of heavyweight fights. We'll be watching this one with interest. Very likely I'll do a post-fight reaction video, maybe the day afterwards. Let me know your thoughts on this matchup. Is it a good test? Will it be one-way traffic? Do you see it as competitive? Am I overlooking Duhaupas? Leave your comments in the section below. As ever, if you enjoyed the content, please do take the time to hit subscribe if you haven't already done so, and please press the thumbs up button so more people can tune into what we're doing here. Thanks for watching.